Hey everyone, and welcome to The Explainer. Today we are diving headfirst into the art and really the science of persuasion. Now, this one is made especially for all you brilliant social psychology students over in Professor Seghi's class at Los Angeles City College. But honestly, if you've ever just wondered, how do I make a point stick? Or why did I just buy that? Well, you are in exactly the right place.
And to Professor Seghi's class, let's just take a moment. You've made it to Module 7. You guys are doing some amazing work, and all that effort is really paying off. So for this module, I want you to try something. Don't think of it as just another chapter in a textbook. Think of it as a personal quest, an adventure to understand the invisible forces that shape our decisions, our relationships, and even our biggest ambitions every single day here in LA.
All right, let's get into it. So what is persuasion, really? At its heart, it's just a process. A message comes in and it changes what we believe, how we feel, or what we do. And if you live in a city like Los Angeles, you're basically living in a 24/7 masterclass on persuasion. I mean, it's on those giant billboards you see when you're stuck in traffic on the 101. It's in that startup pitch you overhear at a coffee shop in Venice. And it's definitely in that family group chat about whose house to go to for dinner. It is literally everywhere.
So the first part of our quest is to understand that our brains don't just have one way of handling all these messages. Nope. There are actually two very different paths our minds can take when we're faced with a choice.
Think of it like driving in LA, right? You've got the central route. That's your scenic drive, maybe cruising up the PCH. You're paying attention, you're thinking hard about the arguments, you're analyzing all the facts. This is the route you're on when you're deciding which college to transfer to or what you want your major to be. But then there's the peripheral route. And that's the 405 at rush hour. It's fast, it's automatic, and you're just relying on simple cues to get by. You're not thinking deeply, you're just going with the flow because, I don't know, a celebrity you like endorsed it or the jingle was super catchy.
So take just a second and think about it. Which route are you on when you're scrolling through TikTok trying to figure out where to eat in Koreatown, or when your friend is giving you some intense career advice? Just being able to recognize which path your brain is taking, that's the very first step to really understanding this world of influence.
Okay, so every great quest has its main characters, right? Well, in the story of persuasion, there are four that you absolutely have to know. Getting a handle on these guys is the key to decoding basically any attempt to influence you, whether it's from a big brand, a politician, or, yeah, even your best friend. And here they are, the big four. Who's doing the talking? What are they actually saying? How are they saying it? And who are they trying to talk to? They sound like really simple questions, but trust me, the answers are where all the magic and sometimes all the manipulation really happens.
Now, let's talk about that first one, the who. It's fascinating how much weight we give to the person talking. We call this credibility. For example, who would you trust more for advice on starting a business? A scientist from UCLA or a super popular influencer from Beverly Hills? Well, it depends, right? On the topic of business, you might lean toward the scientist if they've studied it. But if it's about marketing, maybe the influencer has the edge. It all comes down to their perceived expertise and trustworthiness.
Okay, this slide right here, this is your ultimate cheat sheet for this quest. The amazing researcher Robert Cialdini figured out these 7 incredibly powerful principles of influence. Let's just talk about a few, because they are pure gold. Social proof? That's why you'll trust a restaurant in Silver Lake that has a huge line out the door over the empty one right next to it. Scarcity? That's that limited edition sneaker drop that sells out in like 2 minutes and makes you want it 1,000 times more. And liking? Well, it's simple. We're just way more likely to say yes to our friends. Seriously, take a good look at all 7 of these. They are the psychological levers being pulled all around you all the time.
All right, let's shift gears and talk about the message itself. This is where you find some of the most clever, sneaky techniques, these little psychological shortcuts and hidden traps that can guide our choices, a lot of times without us even noticing. First up is the foot in the door technique. Oh, you've definitely had this happen to you. It's when a friend asks for a tiny favor, like, hey, can you just give me a quick ride to the metro station? You say yes, of course, it's no big deal. But then, once you're in the car, they hit you with, actually, could you just take me all the way to Santa Monica? And because you already said yes once, you feel this weird little pressure to be consistent and agree to the much bigger request. And then you've got its sneaky opposite, the door in the face. This is a classic move. Let's say you ask your parents for a totally ridiculous amount of money, like for a new business idea. You know they're going to say no, but after they do, you come back with, okay, I get it. Well, in that case, how about just enough to cover my textbooks this semester? All of a sudden, that second request seems so reasonable by comparison, and you're way more likely to get a yes.
Now, beyond these sneaky little tricks, there's a key number to remember when you're trying to make a message persuasive, and that number is 2. This represents the power of a two-sided appeal. Look, if you know your audience is smart, and they're probably going to hear the other side of the story anyway, it is incredibly powerful to acknowledge the opposing arguments. You say, yeah, here's what the other side thinks, and then you explain why your position is stronger. It shows you're not afraid of the other argument, that you're confident, and that you've really done your homework.
So we've spent a lot of time on this quest learning how persuasion works on us. But the real treasure, the real prize at the end of this whole adventure, isn't learning how to be a master persuader. No, it's about gaining a superpower, knowing how to thoughtfully and effectively resist unwanted influence yourself. And this right here is one of the coolest concepts in this whole module: attitude inoculation. The best way to think about it is like a vaccine for your brain. By exposing yourself to weak, easy-to-knock-down arguments against your beliefs, you start to build up mental antibodies. You get to practice your counter-arguments, so when a much stronger, slicker attack comes your way, you're not caught off guard. You're ready for it.
I know, it sounds amazing in theory, right? A vaccine against bad ideas. But come on, does it actually work? Like out there in the real world? Does this kind of mental prep really make a difference?
The answer is yes, 1,000 times yes. Just look at this incredible study on teen smoking. So one school got the typical health program, the just say no stuff. The other school got inoculated. They actually role-played and practiced how to shut down peer pressure, like when someone says smoking is cool. And the results you see on this chart, they're staggering. The school that practiced their defenses saw way lower smoking rates. This is not just a theory, people. This is a proven strategy for building your mental armor.
Wow, we have covered so much ground on our quest today. We talked about the 2 paths our brains can take, the secret techniques hidden in a message, and maybe most importantly, how to build up our own defenses. But this is not the end of the adventure.
I really want to leave you with this central idea from the module. The whole point of this isn't to build a giant wall around your mind and never let a new idea in. Not at all. It's about being smart. It's about being open enough to learn from other people, but also having the critical thinking skills to protect yourself from misinformation and manipulation. Your personal adventure into persuasion is really just getting started. As you go about your life here in Los Angeles, navigating your career, your friendships, your big ambitions, these tools are going to be so valuable. Use them wisely, always think critically, and honestly, have some fun with it. And for all the students in Professor Sedgi's class, we are so incredibly excited to see the insights and personal stories you bring to the discussion boards for this module. Now go get them.